The invitation came through our family group chat, my mother's perfectly worded message dripping with concerned disappointment. Emergency family meeting. Thursday, 7 p.m. Alexandra needs our help with her situation. My situation? That's what they'd been calling my decision to quit my prestigious consulting job and start my own company. 2 years of subtle jabs, worried phone calls, and not-so-subtle hints about real jobs with actual benefits. I sat in my car outside my parents' colonial-style house, the same one I'd grown up in, where success was measured in Ivy League degrees and corporate titles. My sister Emma's Range Rover sat in the circular driveway, next to Dad's Mercedes and Mom's BMW. My Toyota Corolla looked decidedly out of place, exactly how they saw me these days. My phone buzzed. Another message from Marcus, my CFO. Forbes article goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You ready for this? I texted back. Perfect timing. Family intervention starts at 7. His response was immediate. Savage. Want me to send a car to rescue you? No need. Some things are worth waiting for. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. No designer clothes tonight. Just a simple black blazer over a white shirt, minimal makeup, hair pulled back neatly. Let them think I couldn't afford better. It made the coming revelation sweeter. The door opened before I could knock. Mom stood there in her channel suit, perfect makeup not quite hiding her frown lines. Alexandra, darling, you're late. By 2 minutes, Mom. Details matter in business, dear. She ushered me inside. Something you might want to consider. The living room was set up like a corporate intervention. Dad in his power position by the fireplace, Emma and her husband James on the leather sofa, Mom's sister, Aunt Patricia, in the wingback chair. They'd even called in reinforcements. Ally. Emma air-kissed my cheek. Love the blazer. H&M. Thrift store, actually. I watched her try to hide her horror. Sustainable fashion. Very on trend. Dad cleared his throat. Let's get started. We're here because we're worried about you, Alexandra. About my situation? I took the least comfortable chair, deliberately facing them all. About your choices, Mom corrected. 2 years ago, you had everything. Junior partner track at McKinsey. That lovely penthouse apartment. William. Ah, yes, William. The investment banker they'd practically planned my wedding to, before I called it off to start my company. And now, Dad gestured vaguely, living in that tiny apartment, driving that old car, working on some, what do you call it? Tech startup, James supplied helpfully. Though startup implies growth potential. He smiled, all teeth, and MBA confidence. I took a look at your sector. The market's saturated. No room for new players without serious capital backing. I bit back a smile. James, who tried to get his own startup funded 3 times before falling back on his trust fund. James, who had no idea he'd been pitching to one of my subsidiary investment firms last month. James, who'd been rejected. Again. We're just trying to help, Emma added. There's no shame in admitting something isn't working. McKinsey would take you back in a heartbeat. Actually, Aunt Patricia chimed in. Barbara's daughter just got promoted to partner there. Youngest female partner in their history. She paused meaningfully. That could have been you. I checked my watch. 7:43 p.m. The Forbes article would drop in 17 minutes. You haven't even told us what your company actually does, Mom complained. All this secrecy, these long hours, and what do you have to show for it? Dad stood, assuming his CEO stance, the same one he'd used for countless boardroom presentations. "We're here to discuss your failing company and plan your next steps. No more avoiding the reality." Emma's phone chimed. She glanced at it, then did a double take. Her perfectly maintained composure cracked. "Oh my God," she whispered, then louder. "Why is your face on Forbes' 30 under 30 list?" The room froze. Mom's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. James grabbed Emma's phone. "That's impossible," he scrolled frantically. "This can't be." Alexandra Bennett, 28, founder and CEO of Neurotech Solutions. Valued at. This has to be a mistake. $2 billion, I supplied calmly. That's the current valuation after our last funding round. Though that number's a bit outdated now. Dad sank back into his chair. $2 billion? Would you like to know what my company does now? I pulled out my tablet, opening our investor presentation. Neurotech Solutions develops AI-driven adaptive learning systems. We're revolutionizing how machines process and respond to complex data. That tiny apartment I live in, it's actually the smallest unit in a building I own. That old Toyota. I bought it because it's practical and reliable, like all good investments should be. Mom's wine glass trembled. But you never said anything. You never asked. You were too busy lamenting my failure to notice my success. I stood up, straightening my thrift store blazer. Our technology is being implemented by major tech companies worldwide. That's why I've been working such long hours. That's why I've been secretive. And that's why, in about 2 minutes, Forbes is running a feature article about how a 28-year-old woman built a multi-billion-dollar tech empire while her family thought she was failing. Emma's phone kept buzzing, notifications pouring in as the article went live. James looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Aunt Patricia was already dialing, probably calling Barbara about her suddenly less impressive daughter. $2 billion, Dad repeated, shell-shocked. Actually, I checked my phone as Marcus's message came through. Make that $3 billion. We just closed another acquisition. I'd tell you more, but I have a video interview with CNBC in an hour. They're doing a special on disruptive tech leaders. The silence was deafening. Then Mom spoke, her voice small. But why didn't you tell us? I looked around the room, at their shocked faces, their shattered assumptions, their crumbling certainty about who I was and what I could achieve. Because sometimes, I said, gathering my things, the best way to succeed is to let people underestimate you. It's amazing how much you can accomplish when no one's watching. My phone buzzed again. That's my car. Unlike my Toyota, this one's actually expensive. Comes with the whole Forbes photo shoot thing. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Emma? That startup James pitched last month. The one rejected by Bennett Ventures. That's my investment firm. Better luck next time. I left them there, surrounded by their luxury brands and conventional success, while outside, a sleek black car waited to take me to my next interview. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them realize that they never really knew you at all. And I was just getting started. The CNBC interview was just the beginning. By midnight, my phone had exploded with messages. Old classmates suddenly remembering our close friendship. Distant relatives claiming they always believed in me. And most tellingly, a series of increasingly desperate texts from my family. Mom, Alexandra, please call us. We need to talk. Emma? OMG, Ally. Why didn't you tell me? I'm your sister. James, about that pitch. Perhaps we could discuss over lunch. Dad, I don't understand. You had all this success and kept it secret. From your own family? I ignored them all, focusing instead on the message from Marcus. Stocks up 12% after the Forbes piece. Tokyo markets opening strong. Ready for tomorrow's board meeting? The next morning, I walked into Neuratech's headquarters, a sleek glass tower in the heart of downtown, my name discreetly etched on the cornerstone. The security guard nodded respectfully. Good morning, Ms. Bennett. My executive assistant, Maya, met me at the elevator. Your family's been calling the office since 6 a.m. Your mother tried to charm her way past reception, but security followed protocol. I smiled. Of course they did. Any other surprises? Your sister Emma posted on LinkedIn about her brilliant tech entrepreneur sister and tagged you. PR wants to know how to handle it. No response necessary. Let her chase the connection. My office occupied the top floor, but I designed it to be invisible from the street. Privacy glass, minimal signage. The space inside was modern but understated. Clean lines, practical furniture, walls covered in whiteboards filled with code and complex algorithms. The morning news played silently on multiple screens. Tech wonderkind Alexandra Bennett disrupts AI market. Neuratech Solutions, the stealth giant that's revolutionizing machine learning. Young CEO built billion-dollar empire in secret. A knock at my door interrupted my news scanning. Ms. Bennett, your 9 a.m. is here. I turned, expecting my scheduled venture capital meeting. Instead, there stood William, my ex-fiancé, the investment banker my parents had never forgiven me for leaving. Alexandra, he said, attempting his old charming smile. You look successful. I look exactly the same as when you called my startup dreams cute and admirable. I stayed seated. How did you get on my calendar? He shifted uncomfortably. Your mother might have mentioned you had offices here. I thought, given our history, I cut in. You should remember that I don't appreciate people who underestimate me. I never. You said, and I quote, tech is a man's world, darling. Stick to consulting where they appreciate diversity hires. I pressed the intercom. Maya, please escort Mr. Harrison out and update security protocols. As he was led away, my actual 9 a.m. arrived. Sarah Chin, the notorious venture capitalist known for backing unicorn startups. Entertaining morning, she asked, nodding toward William's retreating figure. Just clearing out old misconceptions. I pulled up our presentation. Shall we discuss the future instead of the past? The meeting with Sarah went brilliantly, but it was just a warm-up for what came next. At noon, I had a board meeting, my first since the Forbes article dropped. The boardroom was full when I entered. Our investors, mostly older men who'd initially doubted me, now sat up straighter when I walked in. Funny how a few $1 billion changes people's posture. Before we begin, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, the Forbes article was strategic. Yes, the timing was deliberate. And no, this doesn't change anything about how we operate. Marcus, my CFO, pulled up our quarterly numbers. The growth charts looked like mountain ranges. Steep, impressive, undeniable. As you can see, I continued, our decision to operate in stealth mode while building our technology base has paid off. We're not just ahead of the market. We are the market. One of our early investors, A man who'd once suggested I bring in a more experienced CEO cleared his throat. The numbers are impressive, but the publicity changes things. Your family. My family is irrelevant to this company's operations. I pulled up another slide. What is relevant is our next move. Project Nexus. The room fell silent as I outlined our new AI architecture, technology that would make our current success look like a warm-up. Halfway through my presentation, Maya slipped me a note. Your sister's in the lobby. Says she's not leaving until you talk to her. I kept presenting, but sent a quick message to security. 5 minutes later, Emma was escorted to our smallest conference room, the one with the uncomfortable chairs. After the board meeting, I took my time reviewing contracts before finally heading down to meet her. She'd been waiting 2 hours, her perfect blowout slightly wilted, her Prada bag clutched like a shield. Really, Ally? She burst out as I entered. You couldn't have security tell them who I am. Your own sister. They know exactly who you are. I sat down. That's why they followed protocol. She deflated slightly. Mom's crying, you know. Dad hasn't gone to work. They feel betrayed. Betrayed? I raised an eyebrow. By what? My success? My independence? Or the fact that they can't take credit for it? It's not like that. We're family. We should have been part of this. Like you made me part of your life? All those family dinners where you and James talked about your achievements. Those charity galas where Mom introduced you as my successful daughter and me as Alexandra. She's finding herself. Emma flinched. That's not fair. We didn't know. Because you never asked. You were too busy feeling superior to actually see what I was building. And now, she gestured around. Now that we know, can't we start over? James would love to collaborate. Ah, yes, James. I pulled out my tablet, opening his pitch history. 3 failed startups, 2 SEC warnings for questionable trading practices, and a trust fund that's dwindling faster than his excuses. That James. Her face reddened. How did you? I know everything about everyone who tries to do business with my company, including the fact that he's been bad-mouthing me to potential investors for 2 years. Amateur hour, I believe he called it. Emma's designer bag slipped from her fingers. He wouldn't. The recordings are quite clear. I stood up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. Wait, she grabbed my arm. What do you want? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. We're all sorry. Just don't shut us out. I looked at her perfectly manicured hand on my blazer sleeve, the same blazer she'd mocked last night. I don't want anything from you, Emma. That's the point. I built all of this without you, without our parents, without anyone's approval or support. And that's exactly how I'll continue. But what about family? Family? I smiled sadly. Family would have believed in me even without the billions. Family would have asked about my dreams instead of dismissing them. Family would have seen me for who I am, not who they wanted me to be. Her hand fell away. And now, I checked my phone as another alert came in. Now I have a meeting with the governor about making our city the next major tech hub. Feel free to tell Mom and Dad. I'm sure they'll suddenly be very interested in my situation. As I walked out, leaving Emma in that small conference room, Maya fell into step beside me. Your parents are holding another family meeting tonight, she said, checking her tablet. Your aunt's already called 3 reporters trying to claim she mentored you. I smiled. Let them meet. Let them talk. Success is the best revenge, but silence Silence is the best response. The elevator doors opened to reveal Sarah Chen waiting with a group of international investors. "Ready to change the world?" she asked. I straightened my discount blazer, now knowing it would be featured in tomorrow's business pages as tech's new power look. "Always," I replied. "After all, the best innovations come from people everyone else overlooked." Behind me, I could hear Emma's expensive heels clicking toward the exit, the sound echoing like all their years of judgment and dismissal. But I wasn't that overlooked little sister anymore. I was the future. And the future, like success, belongs to those who built it for themselves. 1 month after the Forbes article changed everything, I sat in my office reviewing the latest market reports. Neuratech's stock had doubled. Our AI technology was being called revolutionary by industry leaders, and my carefully maintained privacy had been replaced by constant public attention. Maya appeared in my doorway. "Your father's downstairs." I didn't look up from my screen. The same answer as yesterday. "He's different today. No Mercedes, no power suit. He's wearing jeans." That made me pause. Richard Bennett, CEO of Bennett Global Consulting, wearing jeans? In public? "He's been waiting in the lobby for 2 hours, Maya added, "just sitting there, watching people work." I pulled up the lobby security feed. There he was, my father, looking smaller somehow in casual clothes, holding a worn leather briefcase I'd never seen before. Send him up. While waiting, I studied the collection of newspaper headlines framed on my wall. Neuratech announces breakthrough in quantum AI. Tech's newest billion-dollar CEO refuses family's attempts to take credit. Alexander Bennett. Success doesn't need permission. The last one was from an interview where I had finally addressed the family situation publicly. The reporter had asked why I kept my success secret from my family. My response went viral. Success doesn't need permission, validation, or family approval. It just needs vision and persistence. Dad entered quietly, so unlike his usual commanding presence. He took in my office slowly. The whiteboards covered in complex algorithms, the global market tickers, the view of the city he thought he knew. "Your mother keeps setting a place for you at dinner," he said finally. "Every Thursday night, just in case." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. He sat, placing the old briefcase in his lap. "I've been thinking," he continued, "about your 5th grade science fair." Of all the things he could have said, this wasn't what I expected. "You built a primitive neural network. Used it to predict weather patterns. Everyone else had volcanoes made of baking soda or plants growing toward light. You had algorithms." He smiled faintly. "You won first place, but I missed it. Had a board meeting. I remember. You know what I don't remember? Ever asking you to explain how it worked, or why you were interested in AI, or what you dreamed of creating." He opened the briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. "So I did some research." He spread them on my desk. Patents, academic papers, early business proposals. My work, dating back years. "You filed your first patent at 19, he said. Created your first AI protocol at 22. Launched 3 successful startups under different names before Neuratech. All while we thought you were just." He trailed off. "Finding myself," I supplied. "Being difficult." He looked up, meeting my eyes. "We were wrong. I was wrong." The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of missed connections. "Did you know," he said finally, "that your mother has started taking coding classes? Basic stuff, but she says she wants to understand what you built. Emma's been reading about AI ethics. Even James. James has been trying to pitch to my competitors. I interrupted, using his connection to me as leverage. Dad's face fell. I didn't know that. There's a lot you didn't know, didn't ask, didn't want to see. He nodded slowly. Your mother wants to host a family dinner to celebrate your success. Like the last family dinner? Were you all gathered to intervene in my situation? No. He pulled out one more paper from his briefcase, like this. It was an old photograph. Me at that 5th grade science fair, standing proudly next to my neural network display. Small, serious, and absolutely certain about my path. When did we stop seeing you? He asked quietly. When did we replace pride with judgment? I studied the photo, remembering that day. The excitement of creation, the joy of making something new. The disappointment when my parents missed the ceremony. You know, I said, that project predicted weather patterns with 76% accuracy. Pretty impressive for a 5th grader. Want to know what Neurotech's current accuracy rate is? He looked up, interested despite himself. What is it? 99.997%. I turned my monitor around, showing him our latest test results. We're not just predicting weather anymore. We're modeling climate changes, market trends, population movements. We're helping governments prepare for natural disasters before they happen. Helping businesses adapt to changes before they hit. Saving lives, Dad. For the first time, I saw real understanding dawn in his eyes. Not just of the money or success, but of what I'd actually built. Show me, he said softly. Help me understand. I hesitated. Then I stood up and walked to the largest whiteboard. It starts with a basic neural pathway. I began drawing. But then we added quantum processing. For the next hour, I explained my life's work to my father. He asked questions, good ones, showing he'd done real research. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. I have another confession, he said finally. Bennett Global is struggling. The old consulting model isn't working anymore. Companies want AI integration, predictive analytics. I know, I said. Your stock dropped 40% last quarter. He laughed suddenly. Of course you know. You probably knew before I did. He straightened in his chair. I'm not here to ask for help, or money, or connections. I'm here to say I'm proud of you. Not because you're successful, but because you had the courage to build something revolutionary while we were all too blind to see it. I walked to the window, looking out at the city where I'd built my empire in secret. The next family dinner, I said slowly. What if we held it here? Here? In my building. I'll give them a tour first. Show them what I actually do. No more assumptions, no more judgments. Just reality. They'd like that, he said. Then carefully. I'd like that. One condition. I turned back to face him. Everyone comes on their own merits. No plus ones. James isn't welcome. He nodded. Understood. Emma's? Figuring that out anyway. His latest investment scheme cost them heavily. I know. I bought their debt last week. Through a subsidiary. His eyebrows rose. You did? Why? Because Emma's still my sister. She needs to clean up her own mess. But I won't let her drown. I sat back down. Family is complicated. Success doesn't fix that. It just gives you the power to set better boundaries. Dad stood, gathering his briefcase. Thursday at 7? Thursday at 7. Tell Mom to wear comfortable shoes. It's a big building. At the door, he paused. That article quote, about success not needing permission. I'm framing it for my office, to remind me what real leadership looks like. After he left, Maya brought in my afternoon schedule and a fresh coffee. Your mother's already called 3 times about Thursday, she said. And Emma sent flowers. Donate the flowers, I replied. And Maya, clear my Thursday evening schedule. It's time to show my family what I really built. That night, working late as usual, I added one more framed article to my wall. Tech CEO redefines family business. Success is the best teacher. Below it, I hung that old science fair photo. The little girl with big dreams who became the woman who changed the tech world. Sometimes the hardest part of success isn't building an empire. It's teaching others to see you for who you've become, not who they assumed you'd be. And as I looked out over my city, watching the lights twinkle in buildings where my technology was already at work, I smiled. Thursday would be interesting. But this time, I wouldn't be the one proving anything. I'd already done that. Now it was their turn to learn. My father always said money was the only measure of a man's worth. On the day I left home, he made sure to demonstrate exactly how little he thought I was worth. Here's $100, he sneered, throwing the bills at my feet. That's all a failure like you deserves. I was 22, fresh out of college with an engineering degree my parents hadn't bothered to attend the ceremony for. Standing in our expansive living room, my single suitcase packed with everything I owned, I watched the bills flutter to the marble floor like fallen leaves. The Harrison family fortune loomed around us. Crystal chandeliers, antique furniture, priceless art, all of it screaming old money and older pride. For generations, we'd been investment bankers, each son following his father into the prestigious halls of Harrison and Sons Investment Group. Until me. Engineering. My father had spat when I declared my major. Engineers are glorified mechanics. No son of mine will waste his life tinkering with machines. But I saw something they didn't. While they were counting their millions in traditional investments, I recognized that the future belonged to technology. The next great fortunes wouldn't be made in mahogany-paneled investment offices. They'd be built in garages and labs by people who understood how to merge innovation with opportunity. My mother stood by the grand staircase, martini in hand at barely noon. James, darling, there's still time to fix this. Come back to the firm. Your father can smooth things over with the board. I looked at her, really looked at her, seeing the practiced smile that had never quite reached her eyes. Growing up, I'd watched her measure her worth by the size of her diamond rings, each one larger than the last, as if trying to fill some void that kept expanding. No, Mother, I'm done trying to be what you want. My father's face turned that dangerous shade of red I'd grown up fearing. Then get out. You're no longer a Harrison. The trust fund, the connections, the legacy, you're throwing it all away for some foolish dream. I'd bent down and picked up the $100. The bills were crisp, new. He'd probably had his assistant get them from the bank specifically for this moment of theatrical cruelty. Keep the trust fund, I said, tucking the bills into my wallet. I'll build something of my own. My father laughed, the sound echoing off the high ceilings. You? Build something? You can barely dress yourself properly. He gestured at my simple button-down shirt and slacks, so different from his custom-tailored suit. Without the Harrison name, you're nothing. Those words would echo in my mind for years to come, driving me through countless sleepless nights and impossible challenges. But in that moment, I just smiled. Watch me. I walked out of that mansion with $100, a suitcase, and an engineering degree they thought was worthless. My childhood home's enormous iron gates closed behind me with a final, dramatic clang. Standing on the sidewalk, I realized I had no car. It was in my father's name. No place to live. The apartment near college had been paid for by the trust fund, and exactly $100 to my name. But I had something they didn't understand, a vision of the future and the skills to build it. I walked to the bus station, bought a $40 ticket to Silicon Valley, and used another $10 on a burger and fries. Sitting in that greasy diner, watching buses come and go, I opened my notebook and wrote 3 promises to myself. I would never use the Harrison name for gain. I would build something that would change the world. When I returned, it would be on my own terms. $50 left. Not enough to rent a place, barely enough to eat for a few days. But I had my laptop, my degree, and most importantly, an idea that had been forming in my mind throughout college. The world was rapidly moving toward renewable energy, but there was a critical problem no one had solved: storage. Solar and wind power were becoming cheaper, but batteries remained inefficient and expensive. I had developed a theoretical design for a new type of energy storage system, one that could revolutionize the entire industry. The problem was, building it would take millions in funding, years of research, and resources I didn't have. My professors had called the idea brilliant but impractical. My father had called it delusional. I called it my future. As my bus pulled away from the station, I watched my hometown disappear into the darkness. I'd spent 22 years trying to be the son they wanted. Now it was time to become the man I was meant to be. Little did I know that this $100 journey was the beginning of a story that would reshape the entire energy industry. In 10 years, I would build a company worth billions, revolutionize how the world stored and used energy, and return home not as the prodigal son, but as someone they never imagined I could become. But first, I had to survive Silicon Valley with $50 and a dream that wouldn't die. Silicon Valley wasn't the gleaming tech paradise I'd imagined. My first night, I slept on a bench in a park in Palo Alto, using my laptop bag as a pillow and my jacket as a blanket. By morning, my $50 had become $30 after buying a cup of coffee and a bagel at a local cafe. But that cafe changed everything. "You're going to get robbed sleeping out there," the barista said, watching me try to stretch my coffee for hours while using their Wi-Fi. Her name was Maya, and instead of kicking me out, she offered me a deal: help fix their constantly breaking espresso machine, and I could sleep in the storage room after hours. I fixed their machine in 20 minutes. The owner was so impressed, he offered me a part-time job doing maintenance work. Just like that, I had income and a place to sleep, even if that place was a room full of coffee beans and paper cups. During days, I worked at the cafe. During nights, I refined my energy storage designs, using the cafe's Wi-Fi to research patents and technology trends. Maya would sometimes bring me leftover pastries, peek at my complex diagrams, and ask questions that actually helped me clarify my thinking. "So basically, you're building a better battery?" she asked one night. "Not exactly," I explained, showing her my sketches. "Traditional batteries waste too much energy during storage and transfer. My design uses a new type of molecular structure that could store energy at almost 100% efficiency." She stared at the diagrams. "And why isn't anyone else doing this?" "Because it's theoretically impossible," I grinned. "But I think I found a way." 3 months of cafe work gave me enough savings to rent a tiny room in a shared house with 5 other tech dreamers. It wasn't much, but it had a desk where I could work. I also started freelancing as a technical consultant, helping local startups with engineering problems. That's how I met David Chen. Your solution for our power management issue saved us months of work, he said after I'd helped his startup fix a critical hardware problem. What else are you working on? I hesitated, then decided to take a chance. I showed him my energy storage designs. David was silent for a long time, staring at my detailed technical specifications. Finally, he looked up. This could change everything, but you'll need serious funding to build a prototype. I know. I didn't tell him about my family's wealth, about the trust fund I'd walked away from. I'm working on it. David proved to be more than just another client. He introduced me to Dr. Sarah Wong, a leading researcher in molecular engineering at Stanford. She spent 6 hours grilling me about my designs, trying to find flaws in my theories. It's ambitious, she finally said. Maybe impossible. But if it works, she paused. I have some connections at Berkeley's Energy Research Center. Would you be interested in using their lab facilities? Would I be interested in accessing one of the world's top research facilities? Yes, I managed to say calmly. I would. For the next year, I worked 4 jobs. Cafe maintenance in the mornings, freelance consulting during the day, research at Berkeley's labs in the evenings, and refining my designs late into the night. I lived on energy drinks and determination. Then came the breakthrough. It happened at 3 a.m. in the Berkeley lab. I'd been testing different molecular configurations for weeks, trying to find the perfect structure for energy storage. When the test results came back, I checked them 3 times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It worked. The prototype stored energy at 98.7% efficiency, nearly perfect energy transfer, something that was supposed to be impossible. Dr. Wong verified my results herself. This isn't just a breakthrough, she said, staring at the data. This is revolutionary. Within a week, I had meetings with 3 major venture capital firms. David helped me prepare my pitch, and Maya came over every night to help me practice, throwing tough questions at me until my answers were perfect. The first 2 VC firms said the same thing. Brilliant, but too risky. The third meeting was different. Your technology could revolutionize renewable energy storage, said Alexandra Martinez, the lead partner at Quantum Ventures. But why should we trust a 23-year-old unknown? I met her eyes. Because I've spent the last year proving impossible things are possible. Give me a chance to prove one more. They invested $5 million for a 25% stake in my company, which I named Nova Energy Systems. The name was a private joke, a new star rising from nothing. I moved the research to our own facility, hired a small team of brilliant engineers, and worked harder than ever. We faced countless technical challenges, numerous failures, and moments when it seemed everything would fall apart. But 2 years later, we did it. Our first commercial-scale energy storage system was ready for testing. When the results came in, they exceeded even our highest expectations. Our system could store and deliver energy with 99.1% efficiency, nearly 3 times better than the best existing technology. The energy industry exploded with interest. Solar and wind power suddenly became not just viable, but economically superior to fossil fuels. Every major power company wanted our technology. Nova Energy Systems went public 3 years after that first VC investment. The stock price doubled on the first day. By the end of the week, my stake in the company was worth over $100 million. I bought my first suit since leaving home, not from the expensive tailor my father used, but from a boutique that catered to tech executives. Maya, now our head of operations, helped me choose it. Planning to show off for someone, she asked with a knowing smile. No, I said, adjusting the perfectly fitted jacket, but I think it's time to pay a visit home. I hadn't spoken to my family in 5 years. Through business news and social media, I knew Harrison & Sons Investment Group was struggling. Traditional investment banking was dying, disrupted by financial technology and changing markets. They needed to adapt, to invest in new technologies. Exactly what I had tried to tell them years ago. Now they were facing their biggest crisis yet. A hostile takeover attempt by a mysterious tech-focused investment firm. What they didn't know was that the firm, Digital Horizon Capital, was a subsidiary of Nova Energy Systems, my company. I booked a flight home, my $100 million net worth a far cry from the $100 I'd left with. But I wasn't going back to reconcile or to gloat. I was going back to buy the company that had declared me worthless. Maya caught me staring at my old family photo before I left. Are you sure about this? I tucked the photo away. They taught me that money was the only measure of worth. Time to show them exactly what I'm worth. I didn't know then that my return would shake the Harrison family to its core, that my revenge would be both sweeter and more complicated than I'd imagined, or that the $100 lesson they taught me would end up costing them everything. But I was about to find out. The Harrison & Sons Investment Group headquarters hadn't changed. The same imposing limestone building, the same gold lettering, the same air of old money arrogance. But this time, I walked in through the front door not as the disappointing son, but as the CEO of the company trying to acquire them. Mr. Blake here to see the board, I told the receptionist, using the name I'd adopted after leaving. She directed me to the top floor, not recognizing the prodigal son returning home. The Harrison boardroom was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood paneling, oil paintings of past chairmen, the family crest carved above the fireplace. I played under that table as a child, listening to my father negotiate deals and destroy competitors. Now I sat at the head of that table, waiting. They filed in one by one, board members, executives, and finally, my father. He'd aged more than 5 years should allow. His once commanding presence diminished by stress and failing fortune. He didn't recognize me at first, his eyes sliding past me as he took his seat. Gentlemen, I began, I'm here representing Digital Horizon Capital regarding our offer to acquire Harrison & Sons. We're not interested in being acquired by some tech upstart, my father snapped, still not really looking at me. Harrison & Sons has stood for 150 years and will collapse within 5 if you don't adapt. I cut in, letting my natural voice replace the carefully neutral tone I'd been using. Isn't that right, Father? The room went deadly silent. My father's face went from red to white as recognition dawned. James? Hello, Father. Miss me? One of the board members, old Mr. Peterson, who'd known me since childhood, actually gasped. Little James Harrison? Actually, it's James Blake now, I corrected him. And I'm here to discuss the future of this company. My father's shock turned to anger. This is some kind of trick. You're working for Digital Horizon? I smiled. No, Father. I own Digital Horizon. It's a subsidiary of Nova Energy Systems. I enjoyed watching their faces as the connection hit them. Yes, that Nova Energy Systems. The company revolutionizing energy storage technology worldwide. Impossible, my father whispered. You left with nothing. No, I said softly. I left with $100. Your last lesson about the value of money. Would you like to know what that lesson bought? I nodded to my assistant, who began distributing folders to each board member. Nova Energy Systems is now worth $4.2 billion. Digital Horizon Capital, which you somehow failed to investigate properly, is our investment arm. Over the past year, we've been quietly buying Harrison & Sons stock through various shells and subsidiaries. I opened my home folder. As of this morning, we own 45% of your shares. We also own the majority of your corporate debt, which, thanks to your recent difficulties, is substantial. The blood drained from my father's face as he realized the full scope of what I'd accomplished. The son he'd thrown away had returned to take everything. The offer is simple, I continued. Harrison & Sons will be absorbed into Digital Horizon. The family name will be retired. The board will be dissolved. I paused, looking directly at my father. And you will step down, effective immediately. You can't do this, he sputtered. The family legacy. The family legacy is dying. I cut in sharply. Your investment strategies are outdated, your technology is ancient, and your arrogance has blinded you to the changing world. I tried to tell you this 5 years ago, but you were too proud to listen. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. James, surely we can discuss this. You're still a Harrison. No, I said firmly. You all made it very clear that I stopped being a Harrison the day I chose to build something new instead of clinging to something old. I'm not here for reconciliation. I'm here for business. I stood up, straightening my custom-made suit that cost more than that first $100 1,000 times over. You have 24 hours to accept the offer. If you refuse, Digital Horizon will call in all outstanding loans immediately. Harrison & Sons will not survive the week. My father found his voice again. You would destroy your own family's company? Everything we built? No, father. You destroyed it with your stubborn refusal to change. I'm offering you a chance to save what's left. The jobs, the clients, the legacy you claim to care about so much. Whether that legacy bears the Harrison name is no longer your choice. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and father? Remember when you said money was the only measure of a man's worth? I smiled coldly. By your own measure, what am I worth now? The next 24 hours passed in a blur of legal meetings and press inquiries. News of Nova Energy Systems' takeover bid had leaked, sending Harrison & Sons stock into chaos. My father tried to fight, of course, calling in old favors and trying to rally support. But I had anticipated everything. Every escape route was blocked. Every potential white knight was already aligned with us. Every financial lifeline was closed. The empire he'd spent his life protecting was now in my hands. They signed the papers the next day, in the same room where he'd once thrown $100 at my feet. As the lawyers finalized the details, my father approached me. He looked old, beaten, but there was something else in his eyes. Something that might have been respect, or perhaps just resignation. You planned this, he said quietly. All of it. No, father. You planned it the moment you decided my dreams weren't worth respecting. I just built something better than you could imagine. He nodded slowly. And now? Will you destroy everything out of revenge? I looked at him for a long moment. No, I'm going to rebuild it into something that actually matters. Harrison & Sons will become part of a company that's helping to solve the world's energy crisis, not just moving money from one account to another. The fact that it's no longer yours is just poetic justice. As I turned to leave, he called out one last time, "James, that $100. I smiled. "Best investment I ever made, Father. It taught me exactly what I didn't want to become." The transition took 6 months. I restructured the company completely, modernizing its operations and redirecting its resources towards sustainable energy investments. Most of the employees kept their jobs. After all, this wasn't about punishing them for my father's sins. My father retired to our old family estate, his pride more wounded than his wallet. I'd ensured he kept enough money to live comfortably. My mother tried to reach out several times, always with hints about reconciliation, but I kept my distance. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. A year later, I stood in my office at Nova Energy Systems headquarters, looking out over Silicon Valley. Maya brought in a small package that had arrived from my father. Inside was $100, the same bills he'd thrown at me 5 years ago. I'd left them on his desk after the takeover signing. With them was a note. "You were worth more than I knew." I took the bills to the cafe where my journey had started. The same barista who'd once given me shelter was now a senior executive in my company, but the cafe still made the best coffee in Palo Alto. I left the $100 as a tip. Some might call it petty, using my success to take over my father's company. But I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because sometimes the only way to fix a broken legacy is to tear it down and build something better in its place. They say money can't buy happiness. But $100 taught me something more valuable. The true worth of a person isn't in their bank account or their family name. It's in what they choose to build with what they have. I built an empire, and I did it not because of the Harrison name, but in spite of it. The $100 I left with bought me something priceless: the freedom to become who I was meant to be. The millions I returned with, they just proved I was right all along. And that's worth more than any family fortune.